let's move to the bad of the weekend, and that is one Tennessee Titans. They lost 52-14 against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Mason Rudolph was playing in this game because of Will Levis's injury, his shoulder injury. He got against the Bills, but even before that, it wasn't pretty. I mean, what's the bad is, what is the Titans' solution to this quarterback position going to be? Because at the minute, they're the number 2 pick in the draft at the minute. We're not going to talk sort of about their draft, but what can they do moving forward to try and salvage something from this season? Because it's been really bad. I mean, they've only beaten the Dolphins in week 4, which was 31-12, but that was a tourless win for them, Johnny, against the Dolphins. And it's really, really not pretty for Tennessee, considering, this team had Derrick Henry. They're a proverbial sort of playoff team most years. Strong their defense has been pretty decent this year as well, but they seem to not be able to get anything going on this offense at the minute.
Yeah, I think the scary thing about it is the complete lack of return in investment that the Titans have seen from, what was, if you look back at it, they spent so heavily on free agents and extending players, and obviously, Situatio Hopkins leave, Calvin Ridley, who was a big name, Tony Pollard, another big name. These players are now rumored to be on their way out because the Titans have not figured it out at the quarterback position, and have a really poor offense. Their special teams, I was just reading before we came on how badly, obviously, they had we saw the Lions return some monster punt returns over the weekend. But even before then, I think the Titans were surrendering the most yards in terms of kickoff returns and punt returns. So there's a lot of problems around this team. That the defense has been relatively okay. It's, how poor we've seen, unfortunately, Will Levis and Rudolph playing in the interim. The defense has kept them in games, obviously, against the Colts and the Dolphins, obviously, with their own weaknesses. But yeah, this is a team that is, I think, as the head coach Callahan said at the weekend, he doesn't really know the identity of this team, and I think that is down to a lack of culture, perhaps, but from obviously losing someone like Mike Vrabel, a huge titan inside the Titans organization. I'm sure his departure has left a huge hole in terms of leadership, and someone that players and personnel around the front office could rely on. I think there are an awful lot of problems for the Titans, and yeah, like you say, it screams like they're just waiting now for the season to finish, try and get as much return in investment as possible. I mean, obviously they got a draft pick, obviously, albeit a low one for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the trade for Ernest Jones, in return for Jerome Baker, that's the guy's name. And another sort of example that the Titans are looking to cash in. So I think we can expect Calvin Ridley and possibly another couple of names depart. These names have only probably just arrived in the building. They're probably going to be packing the bags very soon, I think, before next Thursday, because I don't see where the Titans are going on a little bit of a run or picking up wins. I just think it's an unfortunate season that they just haven't figured it out in the off season, and unfortunately with injuries or whatever, they can't figure it out in play as well.
Yeah, the full reset feels like it should maybe happen. But James, I mean, Will Levis, 699 yards, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for the season so far. And, they got rid of Ryan Tannehill. Everyone said he wasn't a good quarterback, and it was all Derrick Henry. And it was like, well, okay, we can't pay Derrick Henry. We don't want to pay Derrick Henry. We'll reset the quarterback position. We'll get cheaper. We'll spend our money elsewhere and we'll build. And that was the idea. And it's just completely fell flat, hasn't it? I mean, like I say, we've gone from Henry to Pollard. Pollard's not been great this year. They've gone from AJ Brown to drafting the kid that I can't even remember his name now, who's been absolutely terrible for them. And then bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, that didn't really work. Calvin Ridley, yeah, all right, he got over 100 yards in the first quarter against the Lions in this game, which was a massive record. But it's all empty calories when it doesn't mean anything, doesn't it? Like, where's this franchise gone wrong, do you think?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The grass isn't always greener in some situations. I'm just trying to think of the name you were trying to think of as well as Treylon Burks.
Treylon Burks, yeah,
there we go.
That's the guy.
3 minds. There we go. I don't know. Yeah, like I say, the grass isn't always greener, and from Callahan to Vrabel, from Tannehill to Levis to Rudolph to, like you say, trading a way of wide receivers and the spending big in free agency. It just feels like a lost organization. Like they don't really feel like they know what they're doing. And now all these names that they brought in over the last couple of years, they're looking at they're shopping these guys around the league. I mean, Calvin Ridley is going to be a difficult sell, I would think. I mean, he hasn't played particularly well. I was surprised when he got a big contract from the Titans, but then the Titans felt desperate, so maybe it wasn't a huge surprise. I mean, I just had a quick look at what picks they've got in the draft, and coming up, they've got a first, second, 2 4s, 2 5s, one of which could become a 4 if DeAndre Hopkins hits certain stats with the Chiefs, a 6 and a 7. But at this moment in time, I wouldn't be trusting that organization to spend those picks too wisely. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's still free agent. You go back begging, cap in hand, and just see if you can get any sort of competent play out, or just even bring him in as an experienced guy to try and cut some areas out from Will Levis. But I mean, he's never going to do that now, surely. They'll go back to Levis when he's fit, because you've got the rest of this year to try and figure out what he is. And if you can cut some of the mistakes out, it might well be that they give him another year and they trade out of that first and gain capital for the year afterwards, and then go again from there. That feels to me, if it goes that way, and if Levis does show improvement, like that would be the sensible thing to do. But then this is Tennessee, and sensibility hasn't always been the order of the day, unfortunately. And so, like you say, it's felt like a really sudden sort of fall from grace, because it didn't feel like too long ago they were making those deep runs into the playoffs and causing upsets with against bigger name brands, if you like. But when, like you say, you make wholesale changes without seemingly too much of a plan, it can't be that big of a shock when it doesn't all come off. I mean, look, it's a funny one, because obviously, we're all in a country where sports teams, threatened with relegation and stuff, and obviously that's not a factor here. So it's not like they're going to fade into obscurity. They're just going to be in just a sort of languid position at the bottom of the last of the 32 teams, almost, or one of the last. And so it is strange. I think there's something there with Levis. I think we've seen signs. I remember, was he to throw like 4 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins last year in like his first game, or something crazy? He showed really good signs, but this year the mistakes have just been so bad that it's negated anything good that he's done. But there is something there. He's big, he's strong, he's got a good arm, he can move. He just needs experience, it feels like. And so we'll see him back in sooner rather than later, I think, providing the injury clears. But I would expect more changes, maybe behind the scenes, before this season's out than maybe on the field. And I don't know if that feels like that would make, if you can get the right guys in, maybe solve some problems. But just a very strange organization it feels at the moment. It's really hard to read on what they are and at any position. But I don't know, you tank the rest of the season and just see what you can pick up and just go pretty much one and done with Levis. We've seen it done in the past. I don't think that would be fair to the guy, and I think he'd get an opportunity elsewhere. But yeah, it's a strange one. I don't like what's happened to them. I liked their brand of football before, pretty in your face, pretty hard, pretty just smash and grab kind of team, and now they feel like nothing in particular. There's no, you don't. It's very hard to see where any threat's going to come from, where they're going to put up points, apart from maybe field goals.
Yeah, I think they've got time in a way to sort of reset this. Like Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle, defensive end. He's very much rumored to be on the trade block as well. I definitely can see a few more of these players going before Tuesday rocks around, because it just feels to me like, it feels like a bit of a franchise and a massive reset. I agree, but they were exciting with that smash mouth football, but it's a very different organization now, different front office, different players on this team. And you referred to it earlier, James, about James or Johnny, I can't remember who referred to it, about the identity, about there's the character and the identity of this team, and what was a team with a ton of it, with a ton of identity and character, has now got none of it. And I don't know how hard that is for an organization to find that, I suppose. So they're going to have to dive deep and have a look at this and carry on trying to find and then figure out some answers. Let's talk about another.